Right, so Juan, we're back after what several COVID months of not doing one of these. If you remember the previous IBKR one, that was quite a lot of fun. Have you been?
Yeah, no, pretty good. And I think the audience must be delighted to have gotten a break from me. So did I. So yeah, that's good.
No, it's been a while having done one of these, so good to have you back. And today we're going to be talking about something of a really important milestone in Darwinex's evolution, especially in recent months. And I'm gonna throw a few questions at you, as always. Keep it all casual and unscripted for your pleasure,
Yeah.
and have a nice bit of Q&A for the audience to benefit from. So we've recently started integrating with interactive brokers, yes, and I wanted to basically run through everything to do with this integration, the whys, what's, hows, and whens, etc. So if we could start off with just the primary motivation behind this integration with interactive brokers, like
Mhm.
how does it align? You've spoken a lot over the years about Darwinex's current standing in the world of fintech as well as financial trading. How does this align with overall company vision? Like, why are we doing this integration, and why with interactive brokers?
Mhm. Okay, so I mean, I guess the first step in the master plan, just to borrow one from.
Ooh, and sorry to interrupt you. What is the scope of the integration? Because there have been a few valid questions raised by a few people, like, please define what this integration, the word integration, means
Yeah.
in the context of Darwinex and Interactive Brokers. I think it would be good if we clarified that here.
Okay, so if we think of abstract from Darwinex for a second and think of what our tech stack does, I mean, at heart, what we do is we pair talent with capital.
Hmm.
And to be more specific, we've developed this technology to assetize any strategy trading Delta One assets
Hmm.
in a way such that it's available to capital initially from the Darwinex broker, but we're now to sort of this integration is the first step in setting this alpha processing machine free. So the primary reason to integrate with interactive brokers is to lay our hands on the installed talent user base with interactive brokers. We know there's a whole lot of traders. Once you graduate from your standard retail broker, typically a national broker, and you're kind of learning if there's cheaper rates or better
Hmm.
coverage and so on, inevitably interactive brokers is globally the first kind of go-to destination.
Right.
So the main reason we're doing this is to lay our hands on any existing talent that's already there.
So that is the primary target audience
That's
that
the
motivates
that's
the
yeah, that's
decision. No?
for sure the primary decision. Yes, and
Okay.
and then it sort of it lent itself to a number of secondary elements. So it can be. We think of interactive brokers as a bit of our growth platform in the sense that
Hmm.
they are present around the globe.
Yeah.
So being integrated with them on a technical basis then gives us a pretty good footprint for many other plans in terms of geographic expansion that we'll talk
Hmm.
about eventually. They have the full coverage of assets, so there's no question that all we need to do is expand the Darwin universe to take on broader assets, but for sure the interactive brokers menu will always have them because they
Hmm.
have the broadest coverage in the industry.
Yeah.
And then there's a secondary element for the integration, which is as part of our ongoing business pivot, we are looking at ways to make the talent that's already on Darwinex, including interactive brokers accounts, to capital through brokers other than our own broker. Because whilst we have a solid balance sheet for a fintech, if somebody came in with €1 billion of capital tomorrow, then I mean, I couldn't consciously recommend that they park €1 billion of futures trading with our existing balance sheet. So we'll walk the talk eventually. But interactive brokers, if we are part of this connectivity schedule, then one possible consequence of this is to take interactive brokers talent, assetize it as a new symbol, and make it available from a technical standpoint to any capital that has an interactive brokers account. So that would sort of bring us full circle of connecting any talent to any capital. And
Okay.
yeah, that was a bit of a lengthy one, but hopefully that gives a bit of color.
No, it's we've touched on a few things. So we've talked about the primary target audience being obviously trying to capture more talent and bring it across to the Darwinex specific offering by having this integration with interactive brokers. And then there's the case of interactive brokers having a fairly diverse pool of asset classes accessible to traders, right? Futures, stocks, options, what have you. And and given the scope of this integration, hence, we're going to be rolling it out in phases, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
And given that we've offered CFD so far, so this will greatly expand at full scope with all phases complete. One would say that the asset class availability would be greatly expanded. So would the effort in terms of audience and stuff. But that's a huge effort. That's like a
Yeah,
huge
that's a
operational
huge
effort. So,
effort. Yeah.
so given we're doing this in phases, what
Mhm.
does this first current phase entail? What does this contain?
Yeah. So before we kind of lay out the phases, I'd just like, I mean, not that people really care, but actually, I guess they do because that way they understand the phases. So,
Well,
like,
they
what are
do,
the
yes.
so what are the
Asset
major
classes.
so what are the major building blocks that,
Mm.
or kind of stumbling stones that we can
Yeah,
hit
yeah.
upon? So a very clear one. I mean, one which we're kind of pretty much over with is the entering the exchange traded asset universe coming from an OTC space. So obviously we've not me because I'm not a trader, but like we've got people
Mhm,
in the team who've certainly traded cash
mhm,
stocks and futures and so on before. But we're sort of building the in-house expertise to
mhm.
cater with the operational back office processes that go with offering trading and exchange listed instruments. So that would be stepping stone zero, and I'd like to say we're kind of past that one. The next one is the set of currencies, the base currencies. There's to assetize an account in the way we do, it requires a very accurate calculation of the valuation of the account at any given point in time,
Mhm.
and of course the valuation of the currency in which it's denominated is an important element to it. And the way that interactive brokers, their backend systems treat this thing is slightly different from the way our backbone was using it. So
Mhm.
the first restriction, so to say, is the multi-currency setup.
Right.
So we have decided to go in this first phase with the most liquid USD-based cash stocks.
Mhm.
Is a reason to basically test any downstream processes for a limited set of for a limited asset roadmap as the team continues to work out the multi-currency implications, by which point we will be in a position to expand the asset universe without that restriction.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the points. Yeah, I guess there's a couple of points we haven't really touched upon. The other one is, of course, there's the way our business model works. It will be tempting for people to try things like market manipulation and possibly front running and a couple of other things that we never want to happen. So we're essentially changing a range of things which are beyond the scope of this podcast so that that couldn't happen. But by definition, one way to avoid that issue is to restrict ourselves to the most liquid assets.
Okay.
So there will always be a limitation in terms of the references that we can offer for trading. I mean, this is a very Pareto driven market. So we'll always
Mhm.
aspire to kind of list the 10, 15, 20% of the most liquid references that drive 80% of the volume. And that is
Mhm.
a structural decision, period. At least
Okay.
for the Darwin asset as we know it, where it's kind of peer-to-peer marketplace where retail capital can tap into it and so on.
And from
Of
what I
course,
understand, the decision isn't unilateral. I mean, we for this round, it's a lot of feedback has been taken from stakeholder communities, like for instance, Robot Wealth and other research groups who've all sort of chimed in to this being an appropriate course of action for phase one, isn't it?
yeah,
And and you touched base on retail traders and the Darwinex offering earlier on, right? Securitizing talent, presenting it to capital. So for any good retail trader, Darwinex's core offering, its key differentiator, right, is the ability to create an investment wrapper,
yeah.
the Darwin.
So I guess that's the kind of the next step. So once we've got
Mm.
the US stocks up and running,
Mhm.
then I like to think of this sort of broadening and a deepening of the integration. So the first thing is just opening a bridgehead all the way until people can, like an Interactive Brokers account, can list its first Darwin for the simplest possible use case, which would be in this case US-based stocks. So that's one of the development vectors. The other is once we've got that kind of bridgehead open, where we bridge the gap between the talent and the capital, then the next thing is, of course, to widen the eligible asset classes in
Mm-hmm.
there. I know they're already working on the futures side of things. So, like by definition, structurally will always be limited to the 10% of references that make up 80% of the volume. And then the way the risk engine works right now,
Liquidity driven.
there's a liquidity driven thing, and the other one is kind of risk profile driven
Right.
restriction, in the sense that the
Okay.
risk engine is designed to cater to delta one assets. So we're not really contemplating options at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most natural follow-on step, but this is kind of subject to revisions, would be to obviously solving the currency situation so that we can offer other assets. Sorry, that was a phone call right there. And the asset universe going in with futures, possibly ETFs, the most liquid traded references.
Mm-hmm.
And from there on, I mean, quite frankly, I think the easiest thing for us to do would be to have a collaborative Kanban board listing the assets that people want and the assets that we're going to support in due course, and just go for it and explain what's going on, because it's really kind of quite demand driven. The other bit I haven't really mentioned, but which is
Mm-hmm.
relevant, is we're working on this private label offering, which is this sort of turnkey hedge fund
Mm-hmm.
platform for emerging managers. So no longer kind of uh, um, retail guys, but like the more professional guys who've already got a handful of million AUM, or possibly
Serious
tens of millions.
initiative,
Like serious,
serious, yeah.
guys who are start emerging managers in their own right. We've got the technology, of course,
Mm-hmm.
to bypass these liquidity restrictions. So upon closer kind of case by case discussion with the managers, we can of course accommodate different assets or bespoke assets. So, for instance, I was having a conversation the other day with an ex Goldman's market maker who's starting a Nordic fund over here, and they
Mm-hmm.
they specialize in Nordic equities that are not euro denominated, because of course
Mm-hmm.
that's where they have their edge. So
Sure.
I mean, the pipes are built, so we can certainly accommodate that and then have a bespoke setup for those guys. But we'll think twice before we open that up to the general public, because that can bring operational complications.
Okay. Okay. That sheds light on that challenge in as regards asset classes, right? I mean, I suppose we could go into the
Yeah.
technical challenges.
On that note, by the way, so that one thing I haven't mentioned, which marks a sort of deviation from the previous roadmap, is the fact that we're seriously exploring the option of doing a kind of Interactive Brokers Classic account, which will essentially
Mm-hmm.
be a bog standard
All
Interactive Brokers
things
account,
IBKR.
enable the full universe on a classic account, which will not, I mean, we'll just enjoy the customer service, but not the Darwin universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then gradually look at adding Darwin accounts, so that if you want to build a long short US market equity, so, or long short European equity, long short futures, kind of global macro with futures or FX, so the kind of
Mm-hmm.
specific accounts which will only allow trading of specific assets, because that makes it a lot easier for the or I guess for capital to trust that there's not going to be style drift, at least not
Mm-hmm.
asset drift,
Yeah.
and certainly for us to do the meta labeling downstream of saying, okay, but these are long short equities or global macro, whatever different hedge fund categories we could.
Opens up a whole can of worms for funds and funds of funds implementations, right? As regards Darwin's.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of gets mind-boggling, because once you kind of churn these out like Lego blocks, you can build
Yeah.
anything with it.
Yeah. On that note, so given the nature of the rollout, um, at the end of the day, IBKR, Interactive Brokers, is home to a very large user base of both retail and professional individuals and entities.
Yeah.
So at this point, given where we are with this integration, how does Darwinex empower someone who chooses to go with the Darwinex and Interactive Brokers integration? Like, so to put that another way, why shouldn't I just go open an account directly with Interactive Brokers? Why do I come to you?
Mhm.
Why would I benefit from that? Even if I don't benefit from it now, given the phase that we're in with this integration, what should be in my head that I should opt for a Darwinex IBKR offering as opposed to just an IBKR offering? What stands out?
Yeah, well, what stands out is with an IBKR offering, the best you can do is pay for trading. With the Darwinex plus IBKR, you've got like a legal regulated shot at getting paid for trading, and it doesn't cost anything extra.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Brilliant.
so both cost the same. You're trading on both the same infrastructures, but with one you can only pay, and the other one you can get paid. I mean, for me, it's like it's a no-brainer,
Yeah,
right?
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And on that note, for clarification, the track record that you start building at this point with the Darwinex and IBKR offering, it will hold for when securitizing your strategy
Yeah.
comes into play, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
I would consider that as a huge advantage
Yeah.
to considering Darwinex and IBKR as opposed to just IBKR. Because if you went with just IBKR for now and decided to go Darwinex IBKR later, you'd have lost the time in between that decision
Yeah.
to make that track record that you developed count towards your asset, right?
Yeah.
When Darwinized accounts do come into play.
So I mean, I think at this time, what we have to really, I mean, yeah, obviously we're looking at like 2 months now. Sounds like the end of the world or something, but it's nothing in the bigger scheme of things, right? So if you're trying to build a serious track record, to wait 2 months, or I mean, I'm very comfortable that we will be supporting the main asset universe in essentially no time whatsoever. So
Okay, great.
so there's no, we're working on that. Obviously, like it could be 2 months, could be 4 months, but it's not going to be 2 years. So that's
Right.
because we've already done this, and
It's very much a short-term initiative, right?
it's it's a short, like, but basically the biggest issue is the connectivity wise, the integration is done. So once you've done that integration, it's just a matter of piping more assets through it, but it's the same pipes. So it's not
Okay.
like there are unknowns, and there are not unknown unknowns. We're just kind of being
Right.
prudent in rolling this out step by step.
Okay.
The broader longer term topic is, obviously we've launched this thing now for our Interactive Brokers account is actually an account with our FCA regulated entity, and this is restricted to our current regulatory footprint. But for instance, if and when we open in the US, we could potentially support, because the technical pipes are there, Darwin's out of Interactive Brokers accounts. So I mean, there are, because when it comes to the OTC markets, liquidity is a key differentiator. So you can't really, liquidity is important, but when it comes to exchange traded instruments, so the liquidity on an Interactive Brokers account and Darwinex Interactive Brokers account is the exact same thing. So we could potentially look up at tie-ups where we say, okay, well, and this is actually what we've done in the past in the OTC space, if you recall, with MetaQuotes and the MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5 platform. So anybody could link up their account on a Tuesday and be live with a Darwin the Monday the week after. So
Yeah.
and that's been, from our standpoint, it's a great value proposition in the sense that we get to onboard more volume from the sort of guys that work well. So we'll always look at empowering migrations so that people who already trade with Interactive Brokers could come work with us, and we might even look at
Bring over their existing track record.
yeah, so with bringing their existing track record, and we might even look at partnerships with existing Interactive Brokers partners who already have a strong presence in certain markets and who might just kind of partner up with us so that we could offer the Darwin universe for their existing user base on terms yet to be discussed. This is just like a very much an exploratory thing, because of course once the technology is there, these conversations become much more relevant and tangible.
Okay, so we covered a few things now. We're going to be in phase one of the Darwinex IBKR integration, launching with just US stocks at this point in time, and the offering otherwise technologically in terms of tech stack will be the same in that the trading platform is available through Interactive Brokers, and if I understand correctly, the entire suite of Interactive Brokers tools and APIs and algorithms and order types.
It's just basically we're just branding with our logo the Interactive Brokers asset
The
universe and
stack,
technology
yeah.
stack, the entire stack. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And we've talked about this being a short to medium term effort in terms of scaling into additional phases, right? After
Yeah.
phase one. So are there, would you be able to shed some light on any factors that influence the availability of additional asset classes? As you alluded to earlier, you were talking about futures being worked on, technological challenges behind considering things like options, for instance.
Yeah.
And is there, in your view, is there an approximate timeline given what you know where we are in terms of the rollout for the full scope of interactive brokers asset classes becoming available at and through the Darwinex IBKR offering, given
Yeah,
the restriction of
that's
liquidity and risk.
that's quite a
Loaded
question.
question, I know.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. So, like, to recap, we'll never go for the more exotic stuff, at least not
Mhm.
in the retail offering. We might do
Okay.
that in the professional offering on a one-by-one basis as part of the
Yep.
private label service. The I cannot even I don't even dare telling you timelines on
Yeah.
doing options, because that requires fundamental changes to the risk engine,
Hmm.
and it's just not the best or the kind of the most obvious use case right now.
Hmm.
So, but beyond that, anything which is delta one, the issues are kind of pretty much mundane. In many cases, it's really a question of we need to source the market data to be able to calculate the historical valuation of the NAV and so on, and that's actually expensive and time consuming. So there are kind of mundane things like that. Then there are methodological questions like, how do we treat the currencies? Unblocking the currency is going to, in theory, unlock any other assets with the same liquidity as we're talking like global stocks and so on. So like if we can do the European, like the US stocks on the Interactive Brokers platform, once we've solved the currency issue, we can do
Yeah.
euro denominated ones, we can do Asian stocks and so on. So that's kind of the stock universe. When it comes to futures, the challenge with futures is in terms of trading, it's actually quite simple. So that's really not a biggie. I'm always thinking of so once we solve the currency restriction, then we can do the Interactive Brokers a classic account, no problem, because that's the
Mhm.
biggest question about solving that. So that would empower everybody to tap Interactive Brokers with our community and support team. And then thereafter is, how easy is it to take those assets and create a Darwin out of them? So when it comes to the stocks, I think it's a question of months.
Mhm.
When it comes to futures, I think we have to tackle how we're going to approach the setup for capital, because capital, right now the contract size for the Darwin is like you could buy a Darwin for 200 euros. That's not going to work
Yeah.
out with the futures as offering. So there's more of a strategic question doing there. So if you have 20 million, then backing a futures-based Darwin, it's going to be pretty much immediate.
Yeah.
Making futures-based Darwins available to accounts with in the thousands of euros, that's going to be a taller order,
Challenge. Yeah.
if at all, because we may actually not even tackle it. So it's really a question we'll have to be making compromises of what's the best bang for the buck in terms of a consumption of scarce resources and the technological side of things.
Mhm.
Then the unit of talent that we pipe into the system for every hour of development of scarce resources. That's the other challenge. Biggest unknown here is that it's not all in our hands. Up to now, we've been working in a stack which is 100% controlled by us. Now we're kind of playing away, and obviously it's the best partner one can think of in terms of the
Yeah.
target talent profile we're looking for.
You walked right into my next question. So Darwinex has long been mistaken, I would say partly due to the way we communicate and position ourselves, but it has long been mistaken for yet another social trading entity.
Yeah,
W-
just like the
And
word make me
it
and
makes me
copy
cringe
trading.
as well.
It makes
Yeah.
me cringe too. Yeah.
The
Um,
term copy trading has been wrongly associated with Darwinex for all too long, and the interactive brokers integration is a strong step towards changing that incorrect perception.
yeah.
So, what would you say to like every individual out there? It doesn't have to be retail; it could be professional, retail and professional alike, as to the main why of Darwinex for them, for both the retail and the professional individual or entity, and the role that this interactive brokers integration plays into this why, keeping in mind the perception at this point in time that Darwinex is yet another social trading entity. What would you say to those individuals? Another loaded question, but you walked right into it. So I told you I won't make this easy. We're just kind of casual, unscripted, involves technicalities.
Yeah. So,
let,
um,
let me piece that down. We've
no,
gone with the
it's fine.
interactive
I mean, like,
brokers.
I just go.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think obviously you can try and simplify things as much as you can, and then. So I'm only speaking. I'm like, when I say this, I'm providing the answer for somebody who's forked out tens of thousands of dollars to open an
Mhm.
Interactive Brokers account, which is already a big differentiator with your
Yes,
average standard account. So
absolutely.
if somebody is forking out the kind of $20,000, $30,000 to trade his own funds, that's someone who's already,
Demonstrating serious skin compared
yeah,
to
you've got
the
your
lower
skin in the
barrier of
game,
entry.
and you've got to Interactive Brokers. I mean, Interactive Brokers is not a company that does lots of how did you find Interactive Brokers? You hit on it because you spoke
Yeah.
to, like, you were learning from your elders, so to say, right?
Mm.
So I think social trading is another turn on the jackpot machine of retail gambling, and we've basically taken some elements of that, because there's an element of mirror trading, like there's a replica trade that goes on to facilitate the transfer of intellectual property across parties
Mhm.
without
Yeah.
commingling monies, which is what's good about it.
Yeah.
But we've done it the right way, in the sense that there's protection of intellectual property, there's a layer of risk management, and there's regulation to charge for success. So
Mhm.
you think of incentive fees or success fees in Europe, and management fees. So we're actually um, turnkey asset management platform, and with all that goes with it, without trying to, you know, churn customers or do any of the things that go on
A
there. 'Cause
big,
the
yeah, big
incentives are aligned.
monetary and infrastructural advantage for anybody considering the
There's
Darwinex
zero,
IBKR.
there never has been, and there never will be an incentive to churn customers under our watch, because what we're
Mhm.
doing here is trying to monetize valuable intellectual property without churning it away. What we're doing now is putting a kind of a much better explanation of what we do on our public website. This is something that's going to change over the next coming months, and
Mhm.
and hopefully that, plus the word of mouth, which we've always had, will hopefully take us places. We may not be an overnight success, but we pride ourselves in having attracted tens of thousands of customers on word of mouth alone. And if Interactive Brokers has been doing this for, what is it? They founded the guy who's he's a total genius, by the way. He founded this 1977, I believe. So they've been doing this for 50 years now.
Wow.
So that's the mentality with which we're doing this. We're trying to pair talent and capital
Mhm.
for a generation, not turning a quick buck on get rich quick social trading.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, with that, like, I think that covers pretty much phase one and quite a bit more than phase one that we went into just now. But in terms of, again, I refer back to the Darwinex IBKR versus IBKR offering. At this point in time, there are certain decisions that have been tabled for phase one. How would you attract feedback? What's your take on how the wider trader community can provide us feedback in this process, in this journey of phased rollout? Is there a scope for people getting involved in contributing feedback towards the decision making? Or
Yeah,
how would you encourage that? Is there something you have in mind in terms of a platform or just a methodology even for people to submit their feedback? Like Robot Wealth has done immensely well in this department in that they've gone all out, set up dedicated Slack channels and the rest of it accrue feedback towards the phased rollout. What would you say to people listening to this who would clearly be interested in the offering? How can they provide you feedback so that you could inform your
yeah.
decision even more?
I think that the largest unknown, or the biggest driver of all this, is going to be the asset roadmap.
Hmm.
So I guess if there's
Okay.
one thing we could use right now is Interactive Brokers trading statements. That's
Yeah.
really, it's as simple as that. Like, because one thing we could do is set up a collaborative roadmap where people vote which assets they
Yep.
want best. But
Hmm.
actually, better than that is actually people saying, hey, I'm going to vote with my track record. So I think one thing we could do is enable submission of track records,
Hmm.
so that we see, okay, what are the assets that most people are trading, so that we prioritize. We see where we are versus what gets us 80%, 90%, 95%, 97% coverage, and then just grow in the most efficient vector along those lines. Because I think the asset roadmap is really the one that's going to drive everything else. Because once the asset is supported, then of course, then that the whole Darwinex seed capital plus Darwin plus private label turnkey hedge fund plus exposure to the capital base comes on. So I think it's really a matter of the asset roadmap, and ideally money validated, as opposed to, oh, I would like to trade the ETF, blah 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 blah, and the guy
What have
does
you
the
been actively doing? Yeah.
yeah. So it's not real trading statements, as opposed
Yeah, I
to
mean, and statements can fast get become a sensitive issue. So to clarify, at this point, we would really be interested in
just the list of
a
assets.
list
You
of
know,
assets
yeah,
that
yeah,
are actively traded in these accounts, or the individuals listening to this, if you could kindly supply us the a list of most active assets, assets you've most actively traded
yeah. I wonder if we
over.
could do. Couldn't we GIMP something to do that? Like just create some app for
Yeah,
like
I was
drop.
just thinking, like
Yeah,
you just talked about. I was thinking of a cool little infographic to figure out how best to guide people along, this whole asset roadmap feedback contribution exercise. That hey,
yeah. I think that the simplest thing would be some sort of. And this is the challenge for Ali. So Ali, how about you create this
great, no
web
pressure.
page, which it's just like an upload Dropbox web page where people can upload. Well, I don't know, because
Yeah,
that
we'll
point.
figure something out. This is a good idea. I mean, at the end of the day, we would like people listening to this to inform us in the one area that's most sensitive at this point, given the where we are in the rollout, which is defining the future of the asset roadmap. So the
Yeah,
more you can contribute at this point, even if it is a list of assets that you trade most actively with meaningful capital, that
yeah,
would inform our decisions a lot better as to at least in a very simplistic way give us two clusters to deal with. The first cluster being what we currently support, and the
yeah.
second telling us, hey, you don't support this, but the interest weighs heavily towards this too. So it would greatly help because we'd be able to see how we can make that a reality, no?
Yeah, and I
So,
guess the question is, what is the one asset we're missing that's going to bring us the most talent?
mhm.
That's going to bring us closer to more talent joining. And the other kind of longer term question, as we speak to the more professional traders out here, is there's two things that bug me and have
Hmm.
bugged us from kind of since day one. So one is there are many good managers who are professionals who've maybe quit the day job because they quite frankly they had it and they've got enough money and they're kind of doing just fine. Thank you. I don't need outside capital. If you try, you can take kind of 10 times more assets and this doesn't carry any risk and you don't have any overheads, then I mean, why not do it? Okay, so
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
one is
yeah.
how
I hear
could
you.
we frame, and this is more of a marketing messaging thing, is how can we frame this thing so that people realize that Darwinex is not about the aggravation that comes with managing third-party money, but rather it's just like it's a transaction of intellectual property where you try and leverage an asset you've built over a long time with less risk for more revenue without zero overheads. Like the investors will not be calling you. You will, of course,
Regulatory and back office.
it's this, all you have to do, like the bare minimum is just kind of to push the button, right? So if you're going to push the button for X and you're really good and kind of 5X more capital could be tracking you, might as well do it, right? So
Yeah,
that's
I mean, you've done all this hard work over time, building
yeah,
yourself up on your own personal platform, both financially as well as in terms of your intellectual property. The Darwinex IBKR offering gives you the opportunity to monetize that, take it to another meaningful, scale in return stream
yeah.
by giving you the ability to securitize yourself, and that's the real differentiator between the two at this point.
That's one. That's one, and the other one that really, and I think that's the most dangerous one because it really applies the most. The better the manager, the more sensitive he is to this. It's
Mhm.
intellectual property
Yeah,
theft.
yeah.
So many of these guys go, oh, but these guys are going to steal my track record, and I'm just not going to do it because, and I
It's good that
totally
you're
get that.
addressing it. Yes.
Yeah, no, I totally get that because I would totally be paranoid in their shoes. And I mean, I guess it's two questions. So the first question is, why didn't you ask yourself that about your own broker?
Yeah, it could be who you're operating with right now.
Okay,
The
because
could be's can
like
scale fast.
we're
Yeah.
not adding any layer of leaks to this thing because we are actually kind of bolted into the broker's infrastructure. And then we're quite publicly kind of betting our house on our integrity. So if we were stealing the intellectual property, that would be the end of us. So this is taking up lots and lots and lots of kind of shower times. How on earth could we do this? Because yeah, you could get
Could we do what? Sorry, so just so we're clear.
certify or like reassure these guys that under no circumstances ever. I mean, of course, I could sort of put my daughter's address and phone number here or something, but like
I mean, I would say make a better case for why we are custodians of this data, because at the end of the day, this
we're
is the
actually a
business
data
model.
we're actually a data broker. I mean, like all we're doing here is, unlike the Gmails of this world, we're actually telling you we're putting an explicit price on your intellectual property, and
And when we say data broker, we're not brokering data to different parties. We're custodians
we're
who.
custodians, and we're actually the custodians of that data. And then, with explicit user permission, we're going to open it up in a way that preserves the intellectual property, so that our talent can collect management fees, can collect fees without
Exactly.
any overhead. Yeah. So if anybody has an idea as to how we could frame this in a productive way, because they're like, anything that can be done, we will do it. I mean, like I totally understand. It's your most precious property, and that's why we've built a company around it, right? Because we think it's valuable. So we thought, if we thought it was worth it, we'd build a company around it. But how do we persuade professional managers to open up that there's a better way of doing things? So like this doesn't mean that you're going to come in and we're going to leech you for $100,000 in lawyer fees. No, there's no upfront charges. That's the first one. And the second one is, how could we reassure you better? That's and it's an open-ended question, because I don't have an answer. If I had it, I wouldn't be asking it.
So people can contribute to this in the feedback collection exercise that we're asking people to participate in. It's help us define the ideal future asset roadmap, and B, help us make a better case for why your data is safe with us. Your intellectual property is safe with us. How the business model itself is geared towards protection of it and not taking advantage of it. Would that be accurate to say?
Yeah, no, it is. It's just, well, like, it's one of these. I feel like stupid. I think I like
Oh
sort of
no,
figure
it's a
it out.
complex problem.
It's
It's not something simple to just dissect. So
no, it's not. No, it's not.
what we'll do in this case, I suppose, is set up a platform, and a platform could be anything. I would lean towards Coda,
Yeah,
which is we could set up a public Coda document for people to openly participate in, contribute ideas in terms of, initially we'll set up two sections, one for
yeah.
helping us define the asset
I
roadmap.
mean, this is just like a brainstorming as we go. So I think we
Yeah,
could, because the trouble would be that if they don't want to upload the statement, then that's an issue. But like, one thing we could do is some sort of
they don't need
Excel-based,
to. Yeah, just
like sort of
supply a list.
Excel-based jumbo that basically plugs the trade, like the tickers of the symbols that have been traded, produces some sort of template, and then that template is what actually gets sent, and they can then send just a list of the assets, knowing that we will never have had access to the trading statement itself. So I think like the way to vote this would be the unique identifier, and then the list of the assets, but we'll never actually see the trading statement. And if people actually want to send trading, that would really be very useful, because that way we can actually test the algos. But I understand that people would be sensitive to sending those just like that.
Okay, so so to turn this into a reality, the feedback exercise will involve soliciting your preferences for the asset roadmap, as well as your take on how best to protect your intellectual property, how best to present our case for protecting your intellectual property. For the asset roadmap, we'll put together a publicly accessible document or something to that effect that will help you easily tell us what universe of assets uh,
Yeah.
would be worth your time, right?
Mhm.
And then that way you'll help us massively, because we'll be able to see what we do offer in our phases, what we've planned to, and what there's demand for.
Yeah.
And that way we can, by providing us this information, you help us help you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I reckon we've gone through a fair bit then. Everything in phase one is clear. What's going to happen, what could happen in future, and how you can help us with defining what's going to be happening in the future. And I think that's about it. I think that's
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Ali, and thank you, dear listener. Hope we haven't really
Y-
rambled on too much, but
yeah,
hopefully that gives you clarity on why we do things the way we do them, and gives you also the opportunity to kind of teach us how to get better.
exactly. And if you've benefited from this conversation, do please share this with like-minded audiences. That could be anything you consider important. Be social audiences, colleagues, co-workers, anybody you think could A, benefit from the Darwinex IBKR offering, and to help us scale it, as we've discussed in this conversation. And if you'd like to participate in one of these brainstorm podcasts, then hit us up and we'll see if we can include you and have
Yeah,
a larger audience in these calls in future.
yeah. Now, I guess the other thing is like what, just like the negative one. So I would not consider working with you because blah blah blah. And then just knowing it that way. Because
Yeah, tell us that too.
yeah, if you think this is not interesting, then it would be very interesting to know why. And we promise to take it, chin up
Seriously,
and not
yeah.
not bug you with the stuff because we respect people have other priorities.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed doing another one of these impromptu sessions with you after a very long time. Thank you, COVID. Always appreciate a dose of pandemics in
Yeah.
our otherwise very stress-free lives, right? And this is a phased rollout. So this is just one podcast that's been recorded. As we continue making progress, we'll keep doing these sorts of updates, and there'll be more of these podcasts or videos, presentations, or a mix of these creatives coming towards you soon. If you feel we haven't covered something in this one, put it down in the comments below.
Ask away. Yeah.
Ask away or hit us up at info@darwinex.com, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for your time, Juan.
Thank you. No, thank you, Ali.